Hey YouTube. So I am back. This was season 5, episode 2, The Has and the Have Nots. This episode was titled Waiting for Candace, which there were a few people in this week's episode that were waiting for Candace, but I will get to that. So, anywho, as I love it, this week's episode started off where it left off last week, the fight scene, where Katherine has just slashed Veronica with the knife across her arm and she's bleeding. Okay, so at this point, Katherine, in my mind, she has blacked out, okay? Katherine has turned legit psycho and she's like, I'm determined to kill you. And I'm kind of like wrestling back and forth at this point because as much as I hate Veronica, I like seeing her shook. I think collectively as a whole, all of us Tyler Perry fans, haves and have nots fans, have really enjoyed seeing Veronica be shook. So if she's dead, then we can't see that. But anywho, Catherine is like chasing her around the house with this knife. Veronica is like, calm down, calm down. Catherine, please don't do this. And we're friends. And she's like, I'm never going to get over what you did to my son. You need to die. Crazy stuff. Chasing her around the table. And then at one point, she's trying to get out the door of the house, Veronica. Of course, Catherine has that place like locked down solid. Like she has a special security alarm system. Then Catherine starts following Veronica up the stairs. And I don't know if a lot of people heard this part, but Catherine specifically said, oh, just like I killed her. And I'm thinking, hold up, hold on. Who is her and what? You killed somebody? Like, Catherine, you always been crazy. But as y'all know, like I don't know if y'all thought this out, but in last week's episode, um, Catherine was holding in all of that information that she knew about Veronica, especially with Veronica and her upbringing and how her siblings hated her and how she's in debt, all this stuff, and especially the juicy details about the relations that Veronica had with Catherine's father. Now, if Catherine knew all of this information, she was harboring this all in. It's like she had that as like a weapon in her back pocket to use at the perfect moment. So y'all, for somebody to pretend be friends with somebody for all those years, like Catherine is legit crazy. And I'm thinking, did you kill one of Jim's mistresses? Like, what in the world? Like, we really need to see your story unravel. So at this point, I get nervous when they're going back and forth on the stairs. They have the knife. At one point, it's pointed towards Veronica, then it's pointed towards Catherine, and then all of a sudden, Veronica slashes Catherine like on the arm, and Catherine starts rolling down the steps. Pause. Okay. I was gonna be very upset, like if like she got a concussion and died or something, because really I'm just finding out the juicy details about Catherine's life. So we're gonna need her to live. Okay, press play. So she rolls down the stairs and I'm thinking, are you really knocked out, like unconscious? Because like people fall downstairs all the time. Like you just got slashed on your arm and Veronica like really thinks you're dead. Like you, whatever. Okay, that was not believable. But whatever the case, that is that scene. Okay, so then we go to the hospital with Wyatt and Jeffrey. Okay, so Jeffrey is there. He's checking on Wyatt, trying to make sure Wyatt is doing fine. And then Wyatt brings up the conversation. Okay, so I heard you on the phone. Like, who did you stab? Jeffrey is like, you didn't hear me say that. What are you talking about? He's like, look, I know that I'm sick or I'm like hurt right now, whatever the case, but don't make me feel like I'm delusional. I know what I heard. And he's like, yeah, that must be the medicine you're on. Because of course, Wyatt is just like a wild child. Like, and he is what does he have? He has what is that called? Like diarrhea of the mouth. I mean, once he's on it, once he's mad or he's under the influence, he just starts just like throwing up everything, all the evidence. So whatever the case, he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, okay, well, I need to get out of this hospital. Like, you're gonna have to help me. He's like, you're not leaving this hospital. He said, yes, I am. I'm getting out of here. I don't need to be in here. Jeffrey is like, bro, you're not leaving this hospital, okay? Like, I wouldn't let you do that. And so, of course, Wyatt is trying to get out of the bed, and Jeffrey is like holding him back and like trying to push him back into the bed. So then Wyatt is like, "Oh, I bet you've been waiting for that all your life. You'd love to have me fall into your arms." And so Jeffrey is like, "No, okay, look, I care about you, okay? I care about you because you're my friend and I love you." And he's like, "Why do you love me? Nobody loves me. Like, what is it going to take for you to leave to get out of here? Because if you're not going to help me get out of here, you're my only way out of here. You're the only person that clearly cares about me. If you're not going to help me, then I'm going to get out myself." He was like, "Well, not as long as I'm still in here." And he was like, "Okay, well, what is it going to take for you to leave?" He said, "I'm not going to leave you. I'm never going to leave you. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to disrespect me. I'm not going to allow that. Then I will leave." So he says, so all I have to do is disrespect you. Okay. So you can tell, like, he's really thinking hard. Like, what can I say to really piss him off to the highest level of festivity so he can leave? So then Wyatt says, "Okay, truth moment here. It absolutely disgusts me that you're gay, and the sight of you with the thought of you with another man is just like, I don't like it." And so Jeffrey's like, "Okay, that's your problem, not mine." It's like, why is it you should like me for me, not because of who I choose to sleep with? So if you have a problem with that, then that's your problem, not mine. Your loss, not mine. So, and in that case, I really will leave. So, of course, this is how he tries to push him away. And even Jeffrey notices that. Look, you keep trying to push people away, push people out of your life. That's that. Whatever. Excuse me. He's like, "I'll just leave." And then, so Wyatt's trying to get out of the bed. And then, of course, Jeffrey's pushing him back in the bed. And Jeffrey's like, "You know what? I ain't got time for this stuff, okay? I'm not going to always be around to be able to check on you, to make sure you're okay, to make sure you don't overdose. Like, are you just trying to kill yourself? Like, I am the only person here to help you. Why are you making it so difficult for me? I already got too much stuff going on, okay? One day I'm going to be gone. I'm not going to be here, okay?" Now, he could be insinuating one day he's going to get fed up with Wyatt and he's just going to be like, "Deuces." Or he could be insinuating, like, "Look, I'm kind of in the middle of a case here. I'm going to go to jail. Then I'm not going to be able to help you." So he's like, Wyatt's like, "Where are you going? Where do you keep referencing that you're going?" He was like, "Look, that's beyond the point. But I told you I'm not dealing with this with you. Okay? I'm not." And then he's like, "Okay, well, can you just take me? I got an apartment. Nobody knows about it. Just take me there. Okay? I'm an addict. Okay? And you can watch me and be around me as long as you want. You know that I can like sober myself up. I've done it before at your mom's facility." And he's like, "So you're admitting that you're an addict? Because in all this time you've never admitted that. So that's a good step." And he's like, "Yep. So I'm an addict and I don't need to be here." And so Jeffrey's like, "Okay, well, let me go talk to the doctor, see if I can work something out and get you out of here." He's like, "Don't talk to them. They're not going to let me leave." He was like, "Exactly. Then you don't need to leave. That means you're not well." So he says, "You know what? That's it. I'm getting out of here." And Jeffrey's like, "You know what? I got a phone call to take." Wyatt is like, "Who is that?" And I'm thinking, Wyatt, you are not his man. Like, you're asking a lot of questions, okay? That you don't deserve answers to. So Jeffrey is like, "Hold on a minute." So he goes outside of the room. Candace is calling. Episode called Waiting for Candace. So he's like, "Bruh, I've been calling you a million times. Like, why haven't you been picking up the phone?" And she's like, "What, the police are outside of my house? Like, what is going on?" He's like, "Yeah, I was trying to call you to tell you." And then she's like, "Oh my gosh, look, I'm just going to lay low." And well, at one point he says, "Well, they're outside of your house because they're going to try to go into the backyard because you know that you killed Quincy." And she's like, click. And I automatically knew that, okay, she must think that Jeffrey is setting her up. They were tapping this phone call and he wants her to admit to this so then it can be on record. Well, she was just thinking like way overboard, which I would have done the same thing. So then Jeffrey says, he calls back, he's like, "Did you just hang up on me?" She was like, yeah." And then he was like, "Why?" She was like, "You're saying that you're trying to get me to admit to killing Quincy because you stabbed him." She was like, he was like, "Yeah, I did stab him, but you stabbed him as well. She was like, yeah, but they weren't fatal wounds. Your stabbing is what actually killed him. He was like, okay, well, whatever the case, whatever the semantics, I don't care about all that. We both did it. And she was like, okay, well, that's more like it because I felt like you were setting me up. He was like, why would I set you up? She was like, okay, well, your last name is Harrington. He's like, look, none of that is even important right now. I'm just trying to tell you what's going down, okay? I'm on your team. We're on each other's side, okay? So she's like, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. And if they're still here tomorrow, then I will come home because this is my house. If they're still investigating, I will come home and I'll just act natural or something. I don't know. So he's like, okay, whatever. Okay, so next thing you know, then we have Benny and Hannah. So another reason why this episode is titled Waiting for Candace because Benny is sitting at the kitchen table of his home that he is scared he is going to lose at this point, and he is patiently waiting for Candace. Okay? He's thinking, my sister is going to come through for me because she always does. Okay? She might be a scammer, she might be a liar, but she comes through. Okay? It may not be legal, but I'm not losing all of this. So whatever the case, Hannah is just acting normal and she's playing with or she's like spending quality time with Candace's son and just acting like everything's all good. Meanwhile, Benny is sitting at the table just like this, looking like super stressed out. Okay, so then Hannah was like, what's your problem? Like, why aren't you packing? Why aren't you doing anything? Why are you looking like that? Why do you seem like you're mad at me because of something your sister did? He said, you know what? Because you always do this to her. You are never encouraging towards her. All you do is just criticize her, criticize her, criticize her, tell her what she's doing wrong, and you push her into a corner even more. And she's like, yeah, because I'm not going to encourage her to do all these bad things that she does and like scheme on people. And no, I'm not encouraging that. Like, I know my child. And then he's like, okay, but you have no faith in your child. You're not helpful. It's the way that you come at her. Maybe if you consider coming to her in a different manner, maybe she'd actually listen to you. But the way that you come at her is just horrible. And she's like, what? Are you trying to blame this all on me? And he was like, no, you be acting all holier than thou, and I'm going to pray and this, and that. But you're not a saint, okay? And she's like, I know I'm not a saint, okay? I know that we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, but your sister's worse. Basically, that's what she said. So then he's like, you know what? I'm done with this. Why don't you go upstairs? Since you claiming you packing your little stuff, pack your stuff and go and pray, whatever you got to do, because it ain't gonna work anyway. My sister is gonna come through. I'm starting to lose faith in her, and I don't want to. So I'm gonna sit here and wait on her. So she's like, that's just so sad because your sister has just shown you her true colors a million times and you still want to believe in her. He was like, yeah, because she's my sister. So I thought that that was touching. I think that he truly does have a bond with his sister and she has a bond with him. And he is the only one that truly does still believe in her. Well, maybe Erica too. So, he's just kind of trying to like wrap his mind around it. Okay, this is the last straw. I don't want to lose my truck. I don't want to lose this house. She's going to pull through for me. So, we shall see. Meanwhile, he's mad at his mama and his mama disappears upstairs. Okay, so then we have David and Erica. So, David and Erica are at the hotel, and of course, it left off where it was last episode, and they're still having a drink. So they're talking. She's trying to get him to loosen up, and he keeps referring to his age and how he's too old for her. And she's like, please don't bring that up. I told you I like my men to be a little bit older than me. He's like, a little bit. She's like, please don't bring that up anymore. And then she's like, you look stressed out. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, well, I just I just have a lot going on in my life. She's like, yeah, let's talk about it. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that to you. And she was like, is this about your ex or your soon to be ex? And then he's like, yeah, but it's just a lot. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you this one time to talk about her to me, to vent. He was like, no, because you don't know her and the whole situation. She's like, even better, okay? I'm going to give you this one time to vent. So he's like, okay. well, everything was all good. We were college sweethearts. We were living this great life. And then one day, just everything started to unravel. And she's like, everything like what? And then, like, was it infidelity? Did she cheat on you? And then he's like, where do you pick up on that? And then she's like, well, you just don't seem like the type to cheat, or it doesn't seem like you would like need it. You're not suffering because of like money issues or anything, because you look well put together. So that's the only conclusion I can come to. And then he's like, well, yeah, basically. And then she's like, oh, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. And then at one point she says, well, I definitely don't want to be the revenge girl. And he's like, oh, no, 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 that's not it. She's like, well, actually, I've never been the revenge girl. That might be quite interesting. And then he's like, what? You would like that? And then she's like, maybe, I don't know. So she's real flirtatious with him. Like, she's really trying to leave an impression on him. Like, you can trust me, you can talk to me. All along, she's pulling information out of him. But it's like, let your guards down with me. I know that this single life is a new world for you, but you can be safe with me. And then he keeps referencing to, you're much more mature than what I thought you would be for your age. And she's like, look, age is not a factor. I mean, she is really like stimulating his mind here, where he's like, oh my gosh, I really think I like this girl. Okay, so whatever the case, then they get up to leave because she's going up to her hotel room, and he gives her a kiss on the cheek. At that point, okay, she has him hooked. He's trusting her. She can pretty much get whatever information out of him. This turn into a physical thing, and she could really get information out of him. But she really pulled him in when she said, look, I have no strings attached. We can just be friends. We can just have casual conversation, never anything extra, and we can talk from time to time, and that'll be that. And he's like, wow, I've never met anybody like you. So she's playing the game well with him. Okay, so whatever the case, then we have David and Brandon. So David has this like secret apartment that apparently he's had for years, but Veronica doesn't know about it, supposedly because he's hidden it in like a bunch of businesses. So he had this just in case, because clearly he knew that his wife was like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So he is talking to Brandon, and he's like, hey, so you didn't find anything on the Erica girl? And then Brandon was like, nope. Do you want me to keep looking? And then he's like, not on the surface. I didn't find anything on her. And David is like, no, you don't have to keep looking. He's like, oh, you must really like her. He's like, no, I'm just saying you don't have to keep looking. Like, I trust her. It's fine. He's like, wow. Well, maybe I'll just look just in case, like dig a little bit deeper. He's like, you really don't have to. Like, basically, back up, okay? Like, I like her. I trust she's passed my test. But I have a feeling Brandon is going to continue looking, and, then he'll find out the truth about Erica. Okay, so whatever the case, then David gets a phone call. It is from Jim. Jim is like upset because Katherine isn't picking up the phone. He's been calling her all day. And he's trying to get in touch with Katherine because the judge that he needed to apologize to in order to get out of jail, that judge is not answering the phone. So, of course, Katherine is his connection to all the other judges in town. But since he can't get a hold of her because it's like crazy town at their home right now, he calls David, and he's like, David, can you go over there and see what's going on? If for whatever reason she's not answering the door, go ahead. There is a key under the flower pot. Open the door and go inside. So David is like, got you. So then Jim is like, hey, and what's word on War getting out of jail? Okay, now I did forget to say this last review. This is very important. Jim has requested to David to get Warwick, aka War, out of jail. Now we all know that Jim wants to get War out of jail because he wants War to kill Candace. Okay, so now back to this week's episode. So David responds and he says, "Yeah, you know that dude has like a rap sheet like 2 miles long." And he's like, "Yep, that's fine. I want him out of jail, so you need to work on it." He's like, "Okay, okay, I'm on it. I'm on it." Okay, so which is kind of crazy because you can get anybody out of jail these days if you have the right connections, but whatever the case. So then he gets off the phone with him. Then we see Mitch at Benny's tow yard. Mitch looks outside and he notices this dude is outside and he's looking at trucks. So he asks the dude, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm here from the federal court. I'm counting cars." He was like, "Okay, you can get off this property." He was like, "I'm not leaving and going anywhere. I've been instructed to come here." So Mitch is like, "Well, tell me what's going on." He was like, Mr. Young, you should know." And he was like, "No, I'm not Mr. Young, but you can tell me what's going on." He was like, "Well, since you're not him, I can't tell you. And no, you're going to have to ask him yourself." So Mitch is getting pissed off. So he goes inside, he calls Benny. Benny is still sitting there patiently waiting on Candace to make something happen. Okay, so he asked him, like, "What's going on?" Benny is like, "Look, I can't tell you right now." He's like, "Dude, they're looking at my truck. They're going to take my truck." And he's like, "Okay, well, the truck is in your name, isn't it? Get your truck off the property right now so they can't take it. I will explain all of this to you later. But I may be losing the place because of Candace. I'll tell you in detail later." Okay, so whatever the case, Mitch goes outside. He's like, "I'm moving my truck." The little fat officer of the court dude was like, "No, you're not moving your car. You can't move anything off this property." So Mitch is like, "Look at the paperwork, okay? This is registered to me." And he said, "Okay, sir, I'm so sorry. You can't move your anything off of this property, according to the court, or you will go to jail." Mitch was like, "Look, I'm warning you, okay? I'm a Malone." Now he didn't say that, but he could have just said that or made a phone call. But whatever the case, then he decides, "Okay, you know what? You ain't gonna you ain't gonna move your car. You ain't gonna let me move. I will move your car." So he gets in his truck, backs out, scrapes the dude's little dust bucket to the side, and he pulls off anyway. And the dude is like, "You're going to jail. You're going to jail." And I'm like, "Nope, he's Malone." Okay. So next thing you know, Candace pulls up to her house. Now, this is the second day she said she was going to show up. She shows up, an officer is not cooperating with her. He's like, "Get off the property," even though it's her property. And she's like, "I know my rights. I'm a law student." And he was like, "I don't care. This is a crime scene investigation. So you need to get off of the property." Okay, so at the same time, Quincy's sister, is behind talking about, "Yeah, and I know she killed my brother, and she hiding stuff. They gonna find out. They gonna find out." And then she's like, Candace is looking back like, "Oh, don't you see some rocks on the ground? Why don't you smoke them?" Like, y'all gonna listen to somebody like her? She's crazy. So then the police officer doesn't know who to believe, but he's like, "Everybody step back." And then so Candace turns around to Quita like, "Girl, if you don't get away from me, I will come over there and whoop your tail." So she's like, "Come on." So whatever. So Quita is like always on 10. Okay, so next thing you know, Justin is in the house. He sees this huge pile of dirt in the backyard, which I'm shocked they haven't gotten to in 2 days. But whatever the case, he's trying to keep everybody away from that. So when police officers start walking towards the door, he's like, "Oh, the captain told you to search upstairs." They're like, "Okay, great." Whatever the case, he calls Jeffrey and he's like, Jeffrey was like, "Hey, is Candace there? I'm just letting you know she's coming." He was like, "She shouldn't come." And he was like, "Well, she said she's coming and she should be there about now." Okay, so Justin goes outside. He talks to Candace. Candace is getting real smart mouth with him, and he's like, basically, "Look, I am your only hope here. So don't be threatening me to out me to my wife and my family and all this stuff. I'm the only one that's in your corner. So you need to cooperate." So she's like, "Okay, cool, whatever." So last scene, we're back at Catherine's house. Veronica gets up from the stairs. She walks past Catherine, kicks her a little bit, and then it's like, oh, basically like, oh, she's dead, and walks to the door. And I'm thinking, Veronica, like, you're not stupid. You know, you slashed her arm, okay? She fell down the stairs, but ain't no blood coming out. Like, she's just knocked unconscious for a little while. If you really thought she was dead, then you're really like, you need to sharpen your skills. So at this point, I'm thinking Veronica really must not hate her because she didn't try to kick her. Well, she kicked her to see if she was awake or dead or whatever, but she didn't try to kill her. No, nothing. She was just focused on getting out the house. Of course, the house is on complete lockdown, so she can't get out. And then Catherine gets up, and Catherine looks like a mad woman at this point, and Veronica's like, calm down, Catherine. Please don't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And Catherine is like, I'll never forgive you for what you did to my son. I can't believe you did that to him. I'll never be able to get past that. You're gonna die. All this stuff. I'm feeling sorry for Catherine because she's like kind of grieving too, in a sense. So next thing you know, she's like chasing her around the table. Then all of a sudden the door unlocks, and who is it? It is David. And Veronica must have forgot how crazy she's treated David, because Veronica automatically runs to David, like, oh, save me. And David looking at her like, girl, please. And all of a sudden, Catherine hides the knife like she didn't do nothing. I'm like, Catherine, girl, your hair is all over the place. There's a dead body in the middle of the floor, and you're bleeding and she's bleeding. You really can't hide anything at this point. But anyways, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out at mrsblogaholic.com, and I'm so looking forward to next week's episode. Deuces.